Main thing I want to do today is try and create as much of an edge around this big bottom plot that I can. Our soft edge has much more turned into a hard edge. I'm hopeful that it will just increase the browse around it so much more, obviously come this fall, if it hunts differently and what that looks like. I just got done flying the drone and I wanted to take a look at those two cuttings we've done. In particular, the one we cut one video ago, which was where I'm gonna put my sanctuary, or where I'm starting my sanctuary. There wasn't any deer using those right now, but it was just obvious by the tracks and the beds up there that they have been in those a lot. So that was good to see. We did find a group of deer a couple videos ago. I mentioned there were some pines along my southern border. That's probably a, I don't know, 30 yard by 30 yard section. And there was probably 5 to 10 deer in those pines. So that was interesting to see today. Good to obviously see they're still using the property. Beautiful day today. Got a couple things we want to get done. So yeah, we're gonna get after it and see what we can knock out. Main thing I want to do today is try and create as much of an edge around this big bottom plot that I can. Obviously deer are such creatures of edge and they prefer that so much. And the current situation on my big bottom plot is it goes from timber to plot. There's really no edge in between. So I think in creating an edge, I'll help with obviously encouraging more browse around it, and then hopefully encouraging more bedding around there too, because throughout the season we just noticed we struggled having anything bed close to the food plot at all. So I'm gonna get going on it. We have nice conditions for hopefully hinging, or at least much better than we've had before. So hopefully that'll help. And then yeah, I'm gonna see how much I can get done. So I just wanted a quick touch on, a lot of guys have obviously given feedback on you want warmer temps than what we have had to get a good hinge. Obviously this isn't a perfect hinge, but I feel like the last 2 times we've been up here, the weather's been in the mid 20s and now it's obviously in the mid 40s, and we did get a decent hinge out of that. And I think before that would have totally snapped off. You can also see there's some sap flowing. So I think that also helps there to be a better hinge, because before that was probably all frozen, which would cause it to snap off, but now that's obviously loose and flowing, so that's obviously nicer than it was before. So going well so far. We're gonna keep after it and see how much we can get done. So just once again, wanted to give a huge shout out to all you guys who said obviously wait for warmer temps if you're trying to get an ideal hinge. And I mean, that makes the world a difference. So just good to learn and good to see it firsthand on what hinging in colder temps versus warmer temps done. And I mean, the hinging is working a lot better today. So thanks again to all you guys. So a lot of these trees are angled towards the food plot because of this south-facing slope right here. A lot of them are falling into the plot, and as you guys know, I can't really afford to make this plot any smaller, so I'm just gonna have to come back here and use the tractor to just push these tops out of the way and probably trim them up a little bit. But it's going well so far. I'm really excited to see. Obviously it's a sunny day today and it just feels like this slope, and it makes sense because it's south-facing, it's just gonna get so much sun, and I'm really excited to see how quick that takes off with all the sun it's able to get. So yeah, so far so good. We're gonna stay after it. So just because of the number of trees that we're having to cut along this slope here, our soft edge has much more turned into a hard edge. I've blocked off a lot of where the deer could come down this slope. So not the worst problem to have, but I would just, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how I can strategically block it off from the northeast corner of this field to where a lot of these deer were coming out during the season, and I've done that. But like I said, in the process, I've created a much more hard edge than soft edge. So I'll have to see how they end up using this. Like I mentioned, not the end of the world, because I think a lot of these deer can come out where they normally do in front of that spot we want to eventually put the stand, and then come into the food plot from there. I think it'll more have to be trial and error and to see how they end up using this and see what it looks like. So I'm going to leave this gap open here where they can work in front of that stand we want in the timber a little bit, and then I'm going to jump over and there's more of a ridge that faces southeast, and I'm going to get going on that ridge. So far so good. We're going to see how much more we can get done. So we've made quite a mess on this north side of the food plot here. And like I said earlier, our soft edge has kind of turned into a hard edge just because of how many young maple saplings there are. We're definitely getting them down, but there's just so many to take down, and it's kind of making a tornado zone. At the end of the day, I think it's still going to be a beneficial edge. Reason being, I think it's going to provide a lot more browse along this food plot, and then hopefully encourage bedding here too, and almost act as a little bit of a transition zone. So like I mentioned earlier, going to be a lot of trial and error just to see how they end up using this. And I'm definitely going to have to get back here with the tractor and just push some of these tops off the food plot, and then probably go in there and open some of that up so they can use it more. But there's a spot where they do tend to come out, as I've talked about before, through this food plot, into this food plot. That's still open, so they can still use that, and it'll just be interesting to see. So excited to see how this is coming along. I'm gonna jump over to the south side of the food plot, get going on that for a little bit, and then we'll get out of here. So I'm gonna leave this portion, and you could really see it on the drone earlier, this portion open where they are using that run already, and then I'll cut to the west of that and to the east of that. And wanted a quick touch on, I know people are probably gonna ask, oh, why wouldn't you make the funnel closer to the blind? If you look a little further north into that woods, there's so much downfall already, and we noticed that those deer were really not using it. So I think it'd be a really big project to try and clear that out and to make them come out in front, and I'd rather just keep them to the spot where they were naturally using, and then that stand we're gonna put up will give us some exposure to that. So hopefully that makes sense. Gonna get started on the south side here and see how much we can get done. So I think naturally on the south side of this food plot, because there's not as much growth to begin with, it's going to naturally create a little bit softer of an edge to begin with, just because we don't have to take near as many trees down. It'll be interesting because it is north facing. I would think during season it won't matter hugely, because obviously south facing is so important when it gets really cold, snow on the ground, all that. So it'll be interesting to see and be able to compare south side of the food plot to north side of the food plot. Right now we're in the gap where these deer do shoot across. So obviously, like I mentioned, I'm gonna leave that open, and then we'll keep working our way east. Well, I just got back to the truck and we just finished up the south side of that food plot here. Like I mentioned, I think that'll turn into a lot more of a softer edge than what the northern side will, but it'll be interesting to compare both sides. Just wanted a quick touch on as to what I think the main benefits for this cut in particular will be around this food plot. Number one is I'm hopeful that it will just increase the browse around it so much more. And obviously my food plot just got destroyed and eaten down to basically nothing. So even if they could browse a little bit around the food plot and get off of the food a little bit, I think that'll be really beneficial. Number two was we struggled so much by having any deer bed close, or at least I didn't think they bedded close. So if we can provide at least a little bit of cover or even a bit of a staging area with this edge, I think that'll make it a lot more huntable. And at the end of the day, if you can increase the daylight movement on your farm, obviously the odds of you killing something just go up that much more. So we'll have to come back and obviously push back the tops a little bit from the food plot, but I'm just really interested to see how this turns out. And then obviously come this fall, if it hunts differently and what that looks like. So lastly, I just want to give a huge shout out to everybody who's provided feedback and insight, especially in particular being how it helps when the temps are that much warmer to get everything to hinge. And I think that was obvious by today how well it worked out and how much better everything hinged. So thanks again for watching. Thanks again for following along and on all your insight. We will be up here within the next couple weeks and hoping to keep pumping these videos out. So as always, thanks for following along, and we will see you guys on the next one.